So welcome everyone once more to the webinar on AI and peer review, elevate engagement, feedback quality, and grading efficiency. We're excited to be hosting this webinar today in partnership with Harmonized Learning. So without further ado, I'd like to just briefly introduce our presenters for the webinar today. We are joined by Dr. Catheryn Reardon, who is an assistant teaching professor of psychology and AI strategist at Arizona State University, and Marcus Popitz, who is the CEO and founder of Harmonized Learning. They have a fantastic presentation prepared for y'all today, so I'll stop sharing my screen and turn it over to them. The floor is all yours.
I remember to come off mute. All right, so yeah, a little context, a little lead into the webinar. So, like she said, my name's Marcus. I own Harmonized Learning. We do a bunch of engagement tools, be it discussions or peer review or assignments and such. And in the process of uh, being in this role, I get to meet a ton of smart people. We're constantly talking to customers, how they're pushing our tools, what are they doing with them, and that's where a lot of this webinar content comes from. So Harmonize is going to feature very, very, very minimally in this presentation. This is more about Catheryn and her work, and I was pointed to Catheryn from some of the ASU instructional designers as doing interesting things with AI, and then she and I had conversations that went all across the board, across all sorts of things. We've narrowed it down to a very dense hour, I think. Catheryn is confident she can get through all the content. I still have a little asterisk of like, really? But she's got some amazing stuff to talk about in framing of how she's used AI in her assignments, but more importantly, how she thinks about it, what she considers when she's integrating AI into particular assignments, so that you have both some theory of like how to think about AI integration, and then in particular, we're going to base this around one of her assignments, a peer review assignment she was doing. So you have something more practical to look at as well. And so without further ado, Catheryn, did you have any additional introductions of yourself you'd like to put in other than smart AI nerd or teaching nerd or?
No, I'm just really happy to be here and excited to kind of deep dive into what we're talking about today with AI integration into assignments and using Harmonize as a tool to help us do that. So I'm ready to get going. We've got a lot to go through.
All right. So we're going to dive right into AI expectation stuff. I'm going to be running the slide deck. Catheryn will be hitting me with moving the next slide. And like I said, we're going to be gathering your questions and hosting a session at the end for Q&A. So put your questions in the chat, put them in the Q&A.
Yeah.
David Green and I will be gathering those and then asking them of Catheryn at the end.
Yeah, we will be answering questions at the end. So hold your thoughts as we get started. This right here is what I call my AI guidelines. I developed this. Ed Plus at ASU refined it. I had kind of a janky version. They refined it, made it look much prettier. But what this does is this gives students guidelines. What we found is that students need clear direction, especially in online teaching and learning. We, as all of you know who are here, online teaching is very different from on ground. So we need to give students those clear guidelines so they understand where, when, and how they use it. Next slide. Each assignment, oh, go ahead, next slide. Oh, did we miss I think there was one that there we go. So these levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are what I use to assign each assignment. Each assignment has a correlating level. Of course, they don't have to use AI. I give them a choice along each one of these levels. However, this is what is recommended within all of my courses and with all of my assignments. They are assigned one of these levels with clear guidelines and instructions within the guided instruction portion itself. Next slide. So why do we want to integrate AI in levels? What's the whole point of that? Well, obviously, we want to avoid any kind of confusion. What we have found at ASU, because we are a school that's very proactive with integrating AI, not all instructors use it. And so if students are unclear if an instructor uses it or if they don't use it, they are, it creates a lot of fear and anxiety. So we really want to have them feel more confident in their work. We want them to feel more autonomous in their decision making. So I created these guidelines specifically for my course so that they would have clear guidance in knowing what they should do, when they should do it, and how they should do it. And this really helps to clear up that academic integrity problem that everybody's been focused on since AI was launched 3 years ago. That has been the primary focus. So we're trying to get away from that. And we're really trying to push more of a specific way to integrate AI into the student work. Next slide. And this is where we really go into the deeper dive of online learning. Online students, we know they've always needed clarity, they need autonomy, they need more engagement. Community of inquiry, which is research that goes way back, really goes into this, that connection, peer to peer, instructor to peer, all of these things. Well, what we're incorporating now on top of that is the ethical use of AI into that whole community of inquiry. So we want to really be integrating metacognition, peer learning, student choice, AI practices. All of these elements will strengthen this deeper dive into online learning. Next slide. So we all know the problems we face, right? Cognitive overload, low engagement, unclear expectations, shallow discussion posts, limited student ownership, all of these things we've heard a million times. This is why we need to be shifting how we design what we do. We don't want to add them more work. We don't want to add ourselves more work. We don't want to be policing AI plagiarism. That's just exhausting and it's a losing battle. So what do? Next slide. We want to show you what we're going to do. We're going to design, it's the way we design our assignments. So Marcos, take it away from here.
Okay, so I'm going to show this assignment in Harmonize, but but you can do this in anything, right? So what I'm showing on my screen is Harmonize embedded inside of Canvas. I wanted to walk through what Catheryn's instructions were doing from a practical standpoint, because I think they were a really great example, and this is what led me to her of how they're actually doing things. So, so very first and forefront, she's leading in with the AI expectations for every assignment and clarifying what those are. So very first thing the student sees, other than the title, is the level at which AI is going to be integrated. And then I think what is super important here is back to that metacognition thing that she's talking about, is that she is both laying out how do they use AI specifically and doing citations for AI, and then laying out the specific assignment instructions that she's doing. And in this case, what she's asking for is a slide presentation and a slide deck. And so we're drifting away from text-only assignments, kind of trying to stay into the authentic realm of things because ChatGPT can generate text. But she's having them build an artifact that is deeply researched and is clear what she's looking for. But a specific part of this, which I thought was super interesting, is that the final slide is actually sort of this how did I use AI, and my AI use statement as I'm going through. And so she's it's not only you can use it, but it's like you have to say how you're using it. And you have to say, how did it actually support your learning? So you're actually getting the students to think about the AI use in like sort of intelligently. And granted, Catheryn is in a grad class, so we can talk about the difference between grad and undergrad when we get to Q&A. But I thought this was super fascinating as well. In terms of all the very specific questions she's looking at. And these are the types of things you can ask specifically about your assignment as well, regardless of the level. Like, this is what I was trying to achieve. How did you use AI to support that? But be very explicit with them and have them include that as a statement. She is using rubrics to do the grading of it. She has teaching assistants, I think, because this is a large class. If I'm remembering, this is the large class, right? So we can talk about that a little towards the end. But then she's also focusing on the student choice aspect, which she'll cover a little bit, where every student is submitting a slide deck and a recording of their slides. So that they actually have the PDF of the slide deck and they actually have the presentation that they're giving, which makes it much harder for them to use AI secretly, because it can't, well, it's not as easy for it to generate a presentation than to talk about it intelligently and sound like you actually wrote it as you go through. And so this is the core of the assignment that we're going to talk about today, is this idea of slide deck plus slides, explicit AI use, explicit declaration of AI use as well.
And I should point out that the rubric also includes the AI use or non-AI use statement. So it is part of the grading criteria within each assignment, their AI use reflection. So we want them always thinking about how they're using it, why they're using it, how it benefits, how it may not benefit, how it may harm them. So next slide. Thank you for that, Marcus. So the big idea, effective online learning, as we know, it's built on that metacognition reflection. And even before AI, I was an English teacher in my past life, high school English teacher, and we really focused on metacognition, looking at deeper themes. That's what we're doing specifically with AI and teaching right now. We're really looking at guided ethical use, reflection, engagement, and student autonomy and choice. And when we combine all of these things, we create that deep, durable learning outcome that we want for all students. Next slide. So metacognition, that is really the engine of deeper learning, thinking about how we think, right? AI chatbots, that's specifically what they are doing. They are thinking about thinking. So we want to be, not to go even deeper, thinking about how they think and how we're using it and how we think. So we're learning more deeply. We're transferring knowledge across context. We're monitoring our own understanding and in becoming independent learners, but also using AI as a co-intelligent tool for our work. So in an online environment, we want to make sure that metacognition is not optional. It is the foundation of learning. What we have to get away from in online learning is everything being submitted as a text essay. And I'm an English teacher saying this. So it goes against the grain of my core beliefs because we still need writing as a tool, but we need to become more creative in how they are submitting those writing artifacts. Because if everybody is submitting a text essay and they can do that with ChatGPT, we are not serving anybody. And we're just creating, diploma mills again, essentially. It's AI, everything's AI. So this is where Harmonize has been really great, I think, with doing the presentations, even with the discussions. If students have to do voice discussions, that is a game changer in online learning, right? We're getting away from AI generated text-based discussions. So getting more into the human side of teaching and bringing AI into the realm and using tools like this to help us do it. Next slide. So why metacognition must be designed in? Because instructors have to design those opportunities that prompt students to reflect on their learning process, notice any kind of confusions along the way, evaluate the tools they're using, evaluate the AI tools. And this is one of the biggest handicaps that we're seeing in online teaching is students are just copying and pasting, right? So we want them to get away from that. We want them thinking critically, just as it was years ago when the internet was formed and people had to think of information literacy. Now it's AI literacy. What are they using? How are they using it? Is it hallucinating? Is it taking them down a rabbit hole, going down the wrong path? We want them thinking critically about all of these things, making good learning choices for themselves. And so this is where we have to have those reflections, those process notes, peer reviews, all of those things activate that metacognition in their learning. Next slide. So peer learning, which is a very high impact practice, it exposes students to diverse perspectives, different cultural aspects, different fields of study. It activates that knowledge construction. It creates social presence in online spaces, which we all know, and that's one of my big areas of research and social presence. That is really what keeps people engaged. People need people. We are social learning beings. We don't want to be in there with a bunch of bots, with a bunch of AI generated text. We want to be in there engaging with one another, which reinforces our understanding and explains our ideas. And it also increases accountability because when you're talking about something, you're going to feel a lot more accountable than if you're just copying and pasting some text from ChatGPT. So it really kind of exposes the human side and gets you more engaged. And also helps prepare you for public speaking in an environment like this today.
I'm actually an AI bot, Catherine. I don't know if I told you that.
Yeah. Although that's a whole other webinar I'll do another time because I am experimenting with avatars right now, but more in a funny context. So that's another webinar for another day. But I think everything that's happening right now in online learning is exciting and it's challenging. And I think we can really, really turn it into active meaning-making moments right now. And getting away from, change is good, getting away from the old and bringing in the new. Next slide. So why peer learning works especially well online, because we can record watchable presentations. That's great for differentiating instruction as well, being able to rewatch things if you have a hard time listening. Asynchronous video feedback loops, written commentary that students can revisit when they're receiving feedback. Also lower social pressure, right? So when you're recording a video, you can record it a few times until you get it right and upload that. When you're speaking live like I am, I make a mistake, you all hear it, we all laugh it off, we move on. But when when students are doing this, it really allows them to kind of refine and reflect and see themselves speaking and also learn from that experience as well. So peer learning drives community cohesion, and it really builds that deeper conceptual transfer of information between students and what they're doing. Next slide. Student choice. And I told you we're deep diving, so here we go. Student choice, which is the missing ingredient in many online courses, right? So many online courses are formulated and they are given an assignment, they have a discussion post, they have a project that they're working towards, whatever it is, they always have a formula ingredient for online courses. They're always usually, depending on the university, sometimes they're fully developed. Sometimes faculty don't have a choice, right? It just depends on the university and where they're being taught. So by giving students choice in the way that we teach these classes, we are increasing their intrinsic motivation because they feel like they're a little bit more in charge of their learning. We're increasing their cognitive engagement because they are making that choice for themselves. We're increasing their autonomy and sense of ownership of what they're doing. They'll be less likely to cheat if they really are engaged and feel like they have a part to play in their learning. And this is where that emotional investment comes in because they're given that choice. So we really want to be looking at ways to let students make those choices for themselves as online students. And research does show students perform better when they select meaningful pathways for themselves. So designing courses in a way that give them that choice and promotes their autonomy really does increase their engagement and sense of self. And I think in an era right now that we're in where we're all feeling like we're losing our own human identity due to robots and AI and everything else, it's more critical than ever for the field of online education that we be pushing this forward. Next slide. So what does choice look like then in an online assignment? Students can choose one way which peers they want to review, right? If it's a topic they really care about or are even interested about, maybe something they never even thought about before, then they're going to be more engaged with it. So giving them the option to choose which peer they want to review. Don't just assign them. Um, and then what tools do they want to use and at what stage? So do they want to use ChatGPT? Do they want to use Sora? Do they want to create a little video? What do they want to do? Let them decide what tools they want to use. Let them go crazy with them. Let them explore. Just like, you know, when you're in elementary school and you're learning to explore new things, AI is new to all of us. And all these tools that are coming out, we can't stay on top of them. Let them explore for themselves and see how they can use it and which ways they can engage with it. We all learn together in that type of an environment. What metacognitive strategies are they going to employ while they're using these tools? How are they going to reflect on them? What are the deficits? What are the gains? How is this going to advance them in their own careers and workplace, you know, preparation in their programs? So really using different types of things that will allow students to focus, that will lead to their own personalized learning pathways. And this doesn't increase the workload for instructors. This is just giving access to students for more tools that they can choose to explore and see how they will benefit them the most, just as a student, but also for their workforce preparation. Next slide. Why let students choose when and how to use AI? Well, because AI is now part of most learning environments, if not all. I feel like it's popping up into every app that's available. There are AI segments in it, so you really can't escape it. There's no escaping AI. It's everywhere we go. So we really want students to be aware of it, engage with it, be making ethical decisions about it, understand the limitations because there absolutely are limitations. We want them to explore using AI as that co-intelligent metacognitive partner. We want them to be building digital learning and AI literacy skills. And we want them to be gaining agency. We want them to feel autonomous as learners and using it as a partner in their learning, but not using it to copy and paste or avoid doing the hard work, because we really want students choosing so that it encourages that intentional use of AI, not the accidental or the plagiarism, because we have no policy in our course. You know, that really, when we're saying no AI use, we're kind of in a way encouraging them to do it accidentally because we're not giving them any clear guidelines. So we really want to be engaging with the best way forward for each assignment and each subject matter and each topic and how to move forward with that tool, because there are tools in pretty much every field right now. Pretty much any subject you can think of, there's tools being available every day across fields. Next slide. So, an example assignment of peer learning and reflection. What I do at the end of that presentation that Marcus showed you is I have students select 3 peer presentations. They have to view them, they have to provide feedback to them in that forum, and then they're going to write meaningful comments to those students and tell them what they learned. And then they're also going to submit a reflection after that. And that reflection just goes to me or the TAs, and it basically, they reflect on the whole metacognitive process of the assignment. So they're reflecting on the presentation, they're reflecting on the feedback that they provided their peers, they're reflecting on their AI use, they're reflecting on the aha moments that they captured from those peer reviews themselves, what students did, what they didn't do, how they integrated AI, how they didn't integrate AI. So they're reflecting on all these different levels, which really brings the lesson home for them. So they're taking the metacognition, the peer learning, the choices they made, and all of those elements create a real deep learning experience for the students in this assignment. Next slide. And I think that's Marcus's turn.
Yeah, so back over into demo mode, and something that I wanted to highlight in her instructions that maybe I should have done a little bit higher is that this assignment, this peer review, is actually a level 4 AI integrated creation and evaluation. Go wild, as it were. Just make sure you're recording how you're actually going wild with that. And then all the instructions. I'm going to collapse these so we can focus on the student work. And just so everybody knows, privacy-wise, I totally faked pre-presentations. That's why I'm demoing so that Catheryn wasn't showing real student data inside her class here. But 3 student presentations, once again, back to that student choice, coming in and figuring out which one is actually most entertaining to them that they want to read about, and then looking at both the artifacts and the presentation. And you can see the AI use statement that we put in here for the student. When the students come in, they are responding either to the slides. In our tools, you can do timestamp commentary, but if you're having them do recordings elsewhere, they would just be doing a specific commentary about the video in general, about the slide presentation overall. And or they're critiquing artifacts where they're actually digging into that slide deck and critiquing the slide deck and the ideas from there. Like if we took Catheryn's slide deck, I could probably generate 800 questions on Catheryn's slide deck about follow-up things that I wish we delved into more because there's a lot of stuff going on here. But the idea is like, let's get the students actually interacting with each other's content. And to a point that came in the chat, like what's to stop someone from just using an AI avatar and a gamma as a slide presentation to do this? The whole goal is to make it enough of a peer pressure, intrinsically motivated sort of self-reflection process, and to make it just enough of a friction for them to not make it easy to go do AI, that they are staying away from it. You can't stop all students from using AI. They could spend a lot more time doing this, but in my belief is you can lead a horse to water, and we hear about this a lot from instructors now where they're just like, peace out. I'm not trying to catch them anymore. Some students are going to cheat. Right. So be it. Not worth my time. Moving on from there type of thing. So you build blocks that are more supportive in this regard. You're getting that peer pressure going on. They're giving good ideas because they got good ideas. And sure, yes, there are going to be some people that opt out of that learning process. But I'm guessing, Catheryn, in your grad class, you probably didn't see too much of that going on.
No, I did not. And the fact of the matter is you always have a small percentage of students who, for whatever reason, feel the need to cheat. And that's been since the dawn of teaching. And there is no way to really catch those students. And will AI get better? Will there be avatars that are harder to discern? 100%. But what does that mean for us as educators? It means we need to be constantly thinking creatively about how we present the material. It means we need to be using tools like Harmonize and other tools like this. It means we might need to be doing more experiential learning types of assignments offline, and then students submit artifacts into this after. There's a whole lot of ways to be rethinking online ed. And again, that's another webinar. We're looking at one specific example here, but there are a lot of ways, and I would love to tell you about more of them because I have a whole lot that we can be redesigning online ed. Because guaranteed, we will be getting away from what we've been doing for a very long time. And I think it's a very exciting time. I think there's a seismic shift happening, and I think seismic shifts are scary, but they're also really cool because there's a lot of neat things that come out of them.
David, do you mind go finding that blog post on the webinar we did of all of these different assessment methods? Because we actually outlined them in a blog. We made an AI chatbot to where your instructors can chat with the chatbot about how to
Awesome.
redesign their assessments. We won't cover it
That's
today, but
great.
David, if you could drop it out in the chat, that I think might be a useful resource, and we can also follow up with it in email.
That's a great resource.
All right. Let's see, back into why does assignment work? Or how did
Well,
it work? How well did it work, or whatever?
yeah, so why this assignment works so well, it reinforces the critical thinking, again, the pattern recognition, community building, the ethical AI reflection. That ethical AI reflection piece is so important because what we don't want any student doing is using AI without thinking about how they're using it. That critical piece is so important just for the AI literacy, just for where we're going as a society. We need students thinking about what they're using it, how they're engaging with it, and the human side, because that is that is what everybody's worried about, right? The human side of teaching and online. We don't want to be replaced by bots. We don't want our students being replaced by bots. We want to empower students as agents rather than passive receivers. None of us should be passive receivers in the age of AI. We all need to be operating as agents, interacting, thinking critically, and using that higher level of cognition. Next slide. So, going back to my English teaching background, what brought me to really deep dive into AI and rebuilding assignments and thinking differently about them is really in English. That's what you do, right? You're interpreting literature, you're analyzing tone, you're looking at undercover themes, you're expressing ideas. We're doing the same thing. So I'm taking all of those themes that I did as a high school English teacher for years before I even went into psychology, and I use that to directly inform my learning design. And so, taking both literature analysis and peer review, they both require students to construct meaning. And that's what we want students doing. We don't want them just receiving information and regurgitating information. We want them to construct meaning out of that information. And so, those same core habits of like close reading, thoughtful critique, reflective writing, all of those tools are the same things we're doing by re-engaging students in these same methods in these courses. The course, if you're wondering what this course was that I'm teaching, it's called Choice and Decision Making. It's a psychology course. It's a graduate level course. You can see why choice is so important. I'm not just teaching students how to think critically and make good choices in the workplace or in whatever workforce environment they're in, but I'm helping them to make good choices for themselves as students and how they're thinking critically about their work. Next slide. So that shared cognitive skills and meaning making, all of those elements, the critical thinking, the pattern recognition, all of these texts parallel evaluating peer presentations and noticing those types of conceptual links. It also brings about the higher level cognition that we're talking about, evaluating, reflective thinking, synthesizing information, comparing information, and then that conceptual transfer of applying those themes across text, aligning and connecting insights across other classmates' projects, and then bringing it back to them, taking them to that ethical AI reflection, analyzing their voice, perspective, and intent in writing. So all of these elements play a role in how they're learning and interpreting all of that information. Next slide. And again, I told you we're deep diving here. So again, community choice and student agency. These are really, really important elements within online learning. And this is really what I see as the wave of the future because of AI. It's pushing us more. We've always had community of inquiry theory. We've always known that social presence is key, but this is really pushing us to kind of take it into another realm. So we really want to be focusing on that community building. So using these types of discussion posts where students can talk to one another through video and provide feedback. And so with Harmonize, they can post a video and then another student can view it, much like social media, comment on it. That is a much more engaging way than having a written discussion post. So we really want students negotiating meaning, learning from those diverse perspectives from their peers, and then having the choice, selecting which peers they want to review, deciding whether they use AI, whether they don't use AI, giving students the choice in how they write, what their approach is going to be. I give them a level 4 on that assignment because I want them to be creative. I want them to think outside of the box. I would love for a student to bring me something that's just some wild presentation with a lot of, graphic elements and maybe a video. I mean, I want them really thinking as creatively as they can, because that is what makes us human. I don't want rote memorization. I want students to be applying this knowledge in new ways, because innovation is where we are going. And that is what all of this is pushing us towards. And that, again, is the empowerment. As students become active creators of meaning rather than a passive recipient, they're going to build that confidence and autonomy that is nurtured through that literary interpretation and writing. So really, this foundation of being a good writer, a good reader of literature, just think about when every student reads a book, they envision in their head what those characters are. They envision the voice. They envision the environment. They're just words in a book, but they envision what that is. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to do the same thing in these assignments. We want them to envision what that assignment is to them as they apply these tools. Next slide. So how AI choice enhances that metacognition. When students choose how and when to use it, they're evaluating their own goals, they're evaluating their own needs, they're evaluating their strengths, their misconceptions, and also their own self-regulation strategies. So AI then becomes a mirror for their own understanding and thinking, because they're looking at it through that tool and how they're going to use it to enhance what they're doing. Next slide. So some early insights just from my own class, because I did teach this. I've done it twice now, using the 4 levels, using the presentations, including Harmonize, and word is getting out. Word is getting out from some of the other faculty. And what I have found personally is students are more increased. They increase their participation in the forums. Oh my gosh, I taught this course before where it was very two-dimensional. Just everything was written. And I went in and I said, I have to redesign this course. I cannot teach it one more time the way it is, because I inherited the course and I completely, from the bottom up redesigned it. Since then, increased participation. The submissions are way higher quality, more creative, more thoughtful, more deep. The peer communities are stronger. There's more engagement. And guess what? Fewer academic integrity issues, even though I say go wild. So there are way fewer academic integrity issues because students have clear guidelines. Their reflections are honest. They're more confident. So this is really where I am going with this, and I would like to see this, throughout our whole program. We're working on it, one professor at a time. But I have seen great engagement from my students, and in fact, I actually had a couple professors that were taking my class just for PD, and they absolutely loved it and asked for my 4-level guidelines and everything else. So I've gotten some really great feedback. Next slide.
Actually, you're on time, so I'm going to give this question here because it is very relevant to this.
Sure.
From Mary Kate, she's asking, are you seeing any diminished returns on such projects across a program? To put it another way, do students continue to engage at high levels if they're required to do similar steps, peer reviews, AI, ethical use consideration, et cetera, across a series of courses? I'm guessing you don't know that answer yet, but I thought I'd put it there.
I don't know that answer yet because this is new, and I just started teaching this fall. I am launching another course in the spring, and there will be more courses launched next year. So as I gain more insight and research, I am conducting research on all of these. So I will have more data in another year, but it's a little early for us to know that yet. But I can tell you just from teaching it before and after, much higher cognition levels. The assignments blew me away. Students loved it. I had great feedback. So I would say students, the word is getting out is what I would say. The word is definitely getting out amongst students, and enrollments are going up. So that's also a key indicator that students are finding it helpful.
I also got to imagine the first time you do it, it's hard. The second time it's easier. The third time it's easier. Now you're used to doing PowerPoint presentations and recording videos and doing slide decks and thinking about AI.
Right.
So even if they're having to do it more, it just becomes easier, and it becomes job skills that I want to see as an employee trying to hire them. I'm like, can you present information, and can you pull it together quickly, and can you be coherent and organized and all those things?
And that is something, Marcus, you're touching on. That is the next step that I'm pushing towards, is more artifacts for students graduating, because jobs don't care about your grades. They care about what you produce. So we need to be making students with products. They need to be graduating with products that they can share in an interview or have a website or whatever it is, whatever their field is, providing with those types of artifacts, portfolios, artifacts, all of those items are really, really critical in the workforce these days. So these were some of the student themes that emerged. They really like feeling more in control of their learning. No student wants to go into a course where they're told what to do and they have no choice. It's boring. And if they feel that they're bored, guess what? They're not going to engage as much. And then they might use AI to cheat because they're like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to put this off to the very last minute when I have no time. And then I'm going to submit, mediocre work, or I'm going to cheat. And so we really want them engaged. And they did find that this was really fun. They enjoyed the freedom they had. We want faculty to have academic freedom. Students should have academic freedom too. They should be able to make those choices for themselves. They also felt much more confident and safe. So many students were relieved when they saw the 4-level engagement because they've had classes where faculty are silent about AI or it's no AI, but they feel like they should be able to use AI. And so there's all of this back and forth. So they really felt psychologically safe. A lot of them were very grateful for the 4 levels. The reflective AI use, they really thought that made them dig deeper in thinking about how and when to use it. It helped to inform their decision making. And again, this was a choice and decision making class, so that was kind of the point. But it really helped them to reflect on that. They also felt more trust from me because I was transparent. I allowed them to have a voice. And that really made them feel more safe and secure as well. And then aligning it with their personal values by giving them that choice and their comfort level when they want to use it. If they don't want to use it, that was fine. That really made them feel more engaged as well because they were taking that autonomous role as a student, making those decisions for themselves. And all of those themes that arose made me feel like, okay, we're on the right track. I'm going to keep going with this. We'll see what the next step is because there's so many new things coming out. I'm going to be trying a lot of different things out. So we will get more research as we go.
You have a couple questions that I think are relevant to this. Someone asked, did any students refuse to do AI for personal reasons?
Yes. Yes.
And I saw in your go ahead.
Yeah, I had 3 actually that said they did not want to use it. And I said, that's perfectly fine. That was actually why AI use was built into the course, AI or non-AI, because I initially was going to make everybody engage with it. And I had several students before the class even started who were very concerned about it. And I thought, no, if I want to have choice, I want them to have choice. So that is where I integrated that element, the AI use or non-AI use. I thought as long as they are thinking critically about it, I'm okay with that because this is a society where we have to be thinking critically about using it or not using it. So either way is fine, but they need to be thinking critically about it. They can't just say no without a reason.
And that also gets to the privacy question that came in earlier, which was, do we have any concerns of them going out and putting their data into these systems? And the answer is they should think about that. And if they opt out, they opt out.
Right. And that is the data privacy. But the one thing to consider is at ASU, every student has a ChatGPT account, and all of those are within the walled garden at ASU. So it stays, because of FERPA, it stays within the walled garden at ASU. So because we have those licenses. Now, if they want to use it outside of ASU and to a personal account, that is up to them. Again, that is their choice. But at ASU, we do provide them with that.
I just went to the next slide. I assume that was
California schools provide that as well. I believe the CSUs all have chat GPTs now too. So to start small, these are like some low lift adaptations to start small. If you want to, deploy these in your class, you can start with like a metacognition prompt. If you integrate AI, like what surprised you about using it? You can start with a peer learning component, comment on a couple peer work. Did you see AI use in their work? How do you think they applied it? Was it appropriate? You can be asking them to review each other's work and giving them that choice, allowing them to pick topics, and then giving them an AI use decision. Do you want to use it? Do you not want to use it? Giving them all of these kind of low lift adaptions in your courses will help them to feel like your course is more transparent, because to teach a course without even talking about AI, now that we're on year 3 of AI, feels a little bit like we're sticking our head in the sand. So we need to be finding ways to kind of integrate it, even if it's piecemeal, to be getting students to at least think critically about it. The AI literacy piece is so important for students and faculty. And those small changes over time can really make a meaningful impact. Next slide. So going back to the critical thinking aspect, this is one of the biggest things. When I taught high school, this was one of the biggest factors in preparing students for higher education. Students lack the critical thinking skills, and the internet is a lot to blame for that. You know, people started Googling and they stopped digging deeper, and AI is only pushing that us even further off that cliff, right? So we really need to be asking the why. It's the why matters, the questions that promote critical thinking, asking students to explain why they used or avoided it. You know, give me some good reasoning, reflecting on their digital responsibility, ethical awareness, the transparency in their learning choices, helping them to develop that discernment when evaluating AI. Don't take it at face value. Be questioning everything. Gain that deeper understanding about their own thinking process, strengthening their own academic integrity while building their own autonomy. And then giving these reflections, because these reflections are not only great for the students, but they're really great for us as faculty, because it shows us the insight and how they feel about it, shows them how it's helping to guide their own decision-making patterns. And all of these things are so important in a society that is literally being transformed as we speak by these tools, by this technology. We all need to be thinking about this. And I include in the rubric an area for each one of these assignments for that AI use and non-use statement. So each assignment has that integrated into it as part of their score. They have to be thinking critically about it.
Real quick,
Next.
that question came in the
Yeah.
chat. How are you evaluating that in the rubric? Is
Yep. It is in the rubric. It's called AI use or non-AI use reflection, and it is a critical part of each assignment. So they have a prompt with a series of questions, and each one of those are built into each assignment.
Okay.
And then this is just an example. I'm not going to read these off, but this is just an example of the different levels of questions that can be associated with your assignments when you're asking them to think critically about the AI use. So your awareness, your process and decision making, your analysis and evaluation, and then your ethical and meta reflection. You know, how does your decision align with ethical use of AI in academic work? Some really heavy hitting questions. We don't ask light questions because we really want them to be using those metacognition skills about it. So by integrating these critical thinking questions into each assignment, we're not only preparing our students in the subject matter that we're teaching. I'm not just preparing them to be, you know, to work in the field of psychology. I'm not just preparing them to be a grad student or an undergrad student, but I'm asking them to think critically about the world around them and how they implement these tools within each assignment, so that we're really giving them the critical thinking skills that they will need to guide themselves once they graduate from college and into the workforce. Because we're all going to be working with AI in the workforce, so we need to be thinking critically about it. And then back again to the designing with choice and reflection template. So you can add this to any assignment. What choices do my students get? How does this assignment build metacognition? What can peer learning add value to this assignment? And how will students reflect on their AI decisions? And this template can work well across disciplines. Adding these 4 elements, really thinking deeply about how you're deploying this. Next slide. And this kind of summarizes everything up here. This AI empowered learners are engaged learners. And that is something I'm seeing, like I said, early research in my own courses. I will have more research in a year from now, but what I'm seeing, the practical integration, giving them it doesn't have to be my 4 guidelines. Some guidelines though need to be there. We need to have some peer review and some learning. We need to give students choice and autonomy. We need them to be reflecting on their learning. And then I just gave you the theoretical basis through this whole webinar, you know, the metacognition for learning, critical thinking skills, and then the ethics of how and when to use AI. And then a little anatomy of the lesson here. We give them that guided instruction. We let students have that choice to, you know, develop whatever topic they want to discuss within your field. They submit that video presentation, then students, they conduct the peer review. Again, it's a choice. They select which students they want to review, and then they address the prompts for AI or non-AI use across all assignments. And again, that is their choice, whether they want to use AI or whether they don't want to use AI. But either way, they have to discuss critically why they did or did not use it. And then just a reminder, we design online courses that are always human-centered, equitable, and transformative. And I personally truly believe by empowering students to use AI responsibly and thinking critically about it, we are transforming the way that we're teaching online.
Cool.
And that's it.
You have lots of questions that came in to be able to delve into. One that related just to that last slide, you were talking about the student choice. Linda, I'm not sure if that's Linda from Wharton, but if it is, hi. When the student choice happens, and there are going to inevitably be some students that don't get any reviews because maybe their topic was boring or whatever, posted late or whatever, how do you deal with that? And is that a problem in the assignment?
No, actually, I have it automatically built into the assignment for the review. There's actually a selection of 2 prompts, so they get another layer of choice. One is you can talk about the reviews that you receive from the students, and the other is you can talk about the process of how you felt about reviewing the feedback you provided them. So they're given a choice. You can either talk about the reviews you got and the feedback they gave you and think critically about that, or just your own metacognition and how you reviewed their own work and what you learned in reviewing their work. So they're again given choices between which way they want to do that final reflective piece.
Okay, so you have kind of an outlet. And did some students not get reviews, or did everyone get at least one?
Not everybody got reviews. There were some that did and some that didn't. And everybody was fine with that because they decided that they liked talking about their own metacognition instead. So,
Little navel gazing.
yeah, I mean, you know, I students, I personally, having been an online student way back in the day when it was Blackboard, point, I didn't like having to be assigned somebody because we all know in online teaching, some students don't always do what they're supposed to do, and you don't want to be stuck in a group with somebody not doing their work, and then you have to pull the weight. So I wanted to take that pressure off of students. I wanted them to feel more autonomous. I wanted them to be engaged, but still autonomous. So I let them make that choice. If they got a lot of feedback, they didn't have to even write about the feedback they received. They could still write about the feedback they were giving other students and what they learned in viewing other students' presentations.
Right.
As long as they're thinking critically, it doesn't matter to me which way they're receiving the feedback.
All right. I'm not sure this question may be for both of us, so I'll field part of it. Someone asked, like, grad versus undergrad, like how do we do this safely in an undergrad course? Because your students are graduates, way more invested in the learning. We see people, I've seen an example doing almost exactly what Catheryn is doing here in a first year experience course. This is Cody out of Polk State, Cody Moyer. He's doing great work down there. They actually have their students attend a first year experience, learn all about the institution, then pick whatever piece was most relevant to them and their eventual
Right.
career path, do a presentation on it to their, so all the students are then required to look at what other students took away from the first year experience class. So the presentation aspect of it still works there. And then the AI integration, it becomes just a clarity thing of like everyone at the college level should start to think about this. You are going to have less intelligent metacognition. You're not even going to use the word metacognition in an undergrad class, honestly, or maybe you will. Catheryn may disagree with me on that. But you're going to get them to start thinking about this. And yeah, some of the answers are going to be poor, but by the time they get to year 3 and year 4, they're going to be much better about that as well. So it's like start because they got to learn as you're going through.
Yes, and I do teach this in undergrad. I'm actually redesigning a course called Effective Thinking that is a writing intensive course in the behavioral sciences. And I am using the same 4-level tier AI integration, and I am still in the process of redesigning that course. But we are teaching writing using AI, and we are using AI kind of as a tutoring tool to help them refine the process. So there are a lot of different tools being developed, a lot of different tools being tested and deployed. And we just have to be thinking outside of the box, folks. We cannot continue to do things the way that we've been doing them. So we push forward, we find new ways. It's kind of funny because I was at Disneyland a couple days ago, and I always think of Walt Disney when I think of pushing forward and finding new ways. We have to be looking towards the future and finding new ways to connect with our students, make things relevant, and push things forward that will serve them well as they, leave whatever esteemed university they're going to We want them to feel confident and prepared so that they can land that job and feel good about what they learned.
And now we got a few odds and ends questions that I'm going to toss in. Someone asked, we know that Heather, I think, asked, we know that AI detection tools are not accurate and they are biased. Do you integrate these into your assignments? And what have you found? And I can speak more broadly. These are entirely inaccurate. You should be extremely careful with them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys even have the Turnitin? Because we do integration with Turnitin, so we will pass your stuff for the AI detection, but we always caution people like, whoa, be careful.
We do not, no, Turnitin is not used for AI detection. It does not work. There is no known tool for AI detection. That's why we're getting away from trying to play the AI police because it's a losing battle. There is no known tool. The only known tool is you might sense a student is using AI, but even then you cannot necessarily call them out unless you find something like a fake URL to a citation. So what I always tell my colleagues is we have to build it into the rubrics. We cannot count a student down for AI use when there's absolutely no way to prove it. So you can build in, references, right? Is it a real URL? Is it a fake reference? If it's a fake reference, it was probably pulled by AI. But again, all of these tools are so sophisticated and rapidly changing, that's going to fall away in 6 months probably. So we have to be rethinking the way that we're doing things. We cannot continue to be, the AI police. We just have to be redesigning our courses, making them more accessible, making them more integrated with critical thinking, use more tools that allow more instructor presence, but student presence in the classroom, using video, using authentic assessments, having maybe students do some offline work and then share it. I mean, I was talking with a colleague the other day even about what about having a student make a collage? They can make that offline and then share it in their presentation and talk about all the elements in there. There's a lot of ways you can be creative in an online course and share things just like you would in a ground course. So we need to be moving more towards those types of ideas and innovating different ways to use all of these tech tools to bring our courses to life and get away from the written word. We still need the written word, but we need students speaking it as well.
Yeah. And, someone asked, like, when you're doing all of this stuff, how do you, all of this is done inside of Harmonize, inside your LMS, right? You can push people to external tools. Someone asked, like, if you are pushing them to external tools to be able to get that voice and get it recorded or take a picture or whatever, how are you recording that as part of the RSI initiative? What I would say is from a tech perspective and from a RSI perspective, don't have them host it out on external sites. Have them actually get a copy of it and attach it, because even in Canvas or Blackboard or whatever discussions, you can attach artifacts.
Yes.
It's not great. Yes. It's not pretty. You play a little tech support role. Those are the wheels we're trying to grease, but you can still have them bring those artifacts inside. So if if you're taking a picture of a collage or a handwritten mind map that they've made, that still can be brought in and attached as part of the assignment.
And that's exactly what I do. I have them upload it. So they upload it, they can share it in a discussion, they can share it in an assignment. Everything is uploadable. So I don't like sending students to outside sites. I like trying to keep everything in Canvas unless it's something specific for a course. But they're usually uploading it is absolutely the easiest way to handle it. Upload any kind of artifact that they can. And then there's also, it's really hard for AI to do infographics still. Infographics are there's a lot of tools that students can still have to take time to create and really think about, like having them come up with, like Marcus just said, a concept map or something they learned about and they have to put it into an infographic. All of those things still take some time. I know that'll probably go away too. But for right now, I think it's really just rethinking our assessments, getting away from the written word, finding new ways to present material that we haven't thought about before. And I think that's the challenge, but it's also a whole lot of fun. So talking to your colleagues and coming up with those ideas is a fun way to do it.
Yeah, and you're picturing like your collage. I'm almost picturing like you've got them with these note cards and you make them record themselves, and they're like, and then I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about this. Oh, they had to make written note cards to do it. Oh, I've made them put physical artifacts. This is actually my presentation from an accessibility conference that I was just at. I will say, we're pushing video, we're pushing screen share. Be aware of the Title II requirements coming up where you have to have audio descriptions for those. We're handling that with AI. so that we can do audio descriptions for your instructors for that content. But if you do this with external tools, please be careful that you do have Title II requirements if you're a public institution to do audio descriptions, which means the man in the gray sweater is flipping through note cards and looking like he drank too much coffee. That's what an audio description is versus what I'm saying. So keep that in mind. If you're not aware of those, go research it. We have a blog article that maybe David can grab on it as well. A lot of talk on this in the world. So as AI is crushing text and we're pushing into more multimodal and universal design for learning, we also need to keep it accessible. So make sure that you're doing that in some way to make sure that it's fair.
Yeah, good.
You had a couple questions come in that maybe these are follow-ups or after, like, do you have a AI use policy or example of the rubric you can share? I used AI to generate a rubric, our AI tool to generate a rubric, so I don't have your real rubric here
Yeah,
inside the course.
I can give you, we can send that out later. I don't know that you want my whole rubric. I mean, because you'll want a rubric, absolutely specific to what you're doing. But I can give you a sample AI non-use rubric. Absolutely, we can send that last piece.
Cool. And they also wondered, did you include critical thinking or what that is? Do you have a rubric example on that? I don't know if that's something that you have in your back pocket.
No, I do not have a rubric for that, but that again is built into your rubric for that assignment. So depending on what the assignment calls for, that critical thinking aspect would be each piece and each component within that assignment would have an aspect of that.
I'm going back and looking through it, and we won't talk about this now because it's too much, but I just want to make sure everybody saw this blog. There was an interesting research article someone put out in the chat, and I can't find now, that was this idea that there's some emerging research that sharing your AI policies can create a little bit of a sense of distrust as well, which I haven't heard before. So I'm going to go read that article. I don't know that we're going to pick it apart here in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different there's a lot of pushback in a lot of different directions, and everybody has good arguments. I think everybody, again, it comes down to choice. You have to do what you feel is best serving your students, and that's different for everybody. And just like I believe in student choice, I believe in faculty choice, I believe in academic freedom, and I think that we all have to make the best choices that we feel are guiding our students in the right direction that prepares them for the future.
Right, and someone just pointed out that was in the Q&A, which is why I couldn't find it. I dropped it back into the chat so you can find it. We will share the chat with this afterwards. We are at time. I will say we don't make this a sales pitch, but I am owner of a company. So I will say, if you do want to check out Harmonize, we offer free semester pilots. There's a webinar that you can just join to see what we do from a peer review perspective. We have tools to do assigning peers and keeping it anonymous or not so that you can have the control to do these things. And like I said, you can play with it for free for a semester because we want you to prove to yourself that it works. It allows you to do a lot of these things with recording video, doing screen share directly in there with a little talking head to help you keep it authentic without you playing tech control world. David will drop those links out there. So if you are interested in that, jump over to our website, check it out. And we will be following up with there. Caitlin will be following up with the recording. We'll also send out some links that we have as well. So you'll get a follow-up from us with all of the information. And we are at time. So you're all welcome. I will follow up with the information. You are welcome to follow up with questions to me. I might be able to answer them. You can also connect with Catheryn on LinkedIn. If you take a look at the spelling of her name, it should be very easy to find.
I'm the only one there. I'm the outlier with my name spelling. You should find me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. If anybody has a question, feel free to reach out. It was fantastic to be here with Marcus, and happy holidays.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.